Dias, good morning, bonjour. I will talk to you about 4 projects on type design for American native languages, but when I say America, I'm saying the whole continent, right? So 3 of them are for Mexican languages, and 1 is for a language from Colombia. So I will tell you something about the background of this. I come from Mexico, and in Mexico we have 68 languages. Here I have this chart. We have 11 families, so you can imagine how different they are one from another. And we also have Spanish as the language that is spoken by most people, and some other languages, some European languages, for example, spoken by little communities. So one can think in Mexico they speak Spanish, but we have like this scenario. And the map should look like this, with all those languages spoken there in Mexico. So when I was studying type design in Mexico, in Veracruz, I thought I needed to do something about it, not just writing beautiful letters and having new fonts just because. So we have in Mexico, there are some numbers, more than 7 million speakers of some native language, some indigenous language, in 11 families, 68 languages, in 364 variants. All of them are somehow endangered. And we had some examples of writing before Spanish people came there. The one at the left is Mayan, it's syllabic, and the other is Sepi Olmec. It's one of the oldest writing systems in America. It's also syllabic, mostly. And then they came in 1519, almost 500 years ago. And we have some early examples of books printed in Mexico. The first press in Mexico came in 1539 because they felt the need of printing books there in Mexico, here in America, because they needed to talk to people in their languages, and they needed to translate it or to put it into Latin script. So it was very hard for them. It was for religious purposes, like most of the things there with the Spanish people. Then, and we have some examples. Here is one from the 17th century. And this is one for Otomi language. We can see the characters over there. They needed to put the sounds in any way. But so we have some languages with writing tradition of almost 500 years, but we still have many problems with Mexican languages and with indigenous languages in America, because the historical background is similar also. The languages are so different, but the conditions, the historical conditions, the political conditions are similar. So nowadays, we have lots of publications. These are some from Mexico. The brown ones here are one of the first books, monolingual books in Mixe language and in Zapotec language. Then we have some other things, some by the government and some other by here, the Jehovah's Witness. We have even comic strips translated into Zapotec. And for example, some signage in the streets of Ayutla, it's in Mixe language. I will talk to you about Mixe language some minutes later. So this was my first attempt at ever designing a typeface. I called it Xalitic. It's the name of a place in my city. When I was studying my master's in Mexico, I designed this, guided by Alejandro Lochelso. And I tried to design a typeface that covered all the Mexican languages, all the 68 languages, but I didn't know how to do it. So I just gathered all the information that I could get, and I got some text from the SIL and from the National Institute of Indigenous Languages and everything I could. And I just put some nice accents everywhere, and I had to design some characters from the phonetic alphabet, from the IPA, and I tried to make it work. So I could write something like this. These are 5 examples in 5 languages. But then I found out that some of them don't write like this anymore. They don't use these alphabets, these orthographic systems anymore. For example, I don't know about the last one. I think they don't use the glottal stop like this anymore. But the others don't do it. So I designed a bunch of characters, but they won't use it. And I thought I needed better references, and I needed to have a solid knowledge on what I was doing, so that I could promote only things that they could use, and not to confuse them in their process for not letting their languages die. So I thought I would need to go deeper into only one language, maybe, and to do some research. And they found me. A group of people, of Mixe people, from the south of Mexico in the state of Oaxaca, which is now very affected by the earthquake from last week. Well, they found me, and they asked me to start doing a project for their language. So I called this project ATypI, that is the name of the language, as they call themselves. It's a work in progress. I haven't had the chance to finish it. So these are some of the characters, and I will tell you what I did here. It's a language spoken by more than 300,000 people there in Oaxaca. And then I had to go deeper. I had to study some linguistics, to study some phonology, to study some grammar of Mixe language. Even when I don't speak Mixe, I can do some words, but I don't speak Mixe. But I know some of their grammar and the phonetics and the phonology. So I looked at a text, and I thought, let's see what happens, not from the X height and the baseline, but above and beneath. And I saw this whole cloud of the irises and ascendants and lots of things. So I could take some decisions looking at this, but I won't show it like so close. Then I tried to copy a page of one of the brown books that we saw there. It was like this, and we had lots of problems, of spacing problems. They also used a typeface that is very wide, this Bookman face. And let's see what happens here. They have some big spaces, and I thought, why is it happening? Why they don't have like word break? But this is because of the technologies. They will need to develop a whole dictionary for InDesign or for any program, and it's a lot of work. So now they don't have it. We needed to do something here. They have such long syllables, such as these ones in orange, and long words like these ones in purple. And I have make a separation of a syllable here in green. So I thought I would need a slightly condensed typeface so that we could fit some words in less space. So this is a comparison of some faces and my proposal here in purple below. Then we had lots of diacritics, so we decided to make them a little smaller, a little closer. I think maybe it's too close. I will change it. Maybe. But I thought I could have another reference. in German language and in German typesetting, because they also have diaresis, and they also have long words and long syllables, and they also have a style for their language. They have, for the digraphs, some ligatures, and they have some features that are special for German language. As David Ross was telling us, there are like special features for each language and for the accents. So I took some ideas, and I think, what if we make smaller the caps with the accents? And then why don't we make some ligatures like the CH in German for a single phoneme? So I did it. And also, I had to pay attention on spacing. For example, I will talk to you about this little character called saltillo. It's like a quotation sign, but it is not. But I will talk to you about it later in my presentation. So I went deeper into a language, and I was studying some phonology, and I found that if you put a letter Y next to a consonant, you have this palatalized consonant. So you pronounce not pia, but pia, and not nya, but nya, cha, and some other features like glottal stop, a. And when you put, for example, a letter K, it sounds different between two vowels. It's pronounced aga, for example, and you have also aspirated sounds when you put a letter G, J. So for the palatalized consonants, I designed a contextual alternate so that the letter Y can cover a little beneath the main character, because we had also one problem, and it's that people in the Mixe communities, they are taught to speak Mixe when they are born, but then they are taught to write and read in Spanish. So it's difficult for them as adults to learn how to write and to read their own language. So we had to give some clues to them so that Spanish don't interfere a lot. Then we did the same for the aspirated vowels, like here. And I did some ligatures for the voiceless consonants, for example, or for some cases where there are some grammatical markers, like this double Y, just to make it look nicer. So we have some of the changes here put into these two columns, and you can see what happens here. You can identify better these phonemes with a different typographic form. We have to translate sound and phonetics into a letter form. This is another project. It's called Woun-Meu, and I did it with a lot of people, with Sandra Garcia, Sergio Aristizabal, Oscar Guerrero, David Espinosa, and our collaborator, who is a speaker of this language, called Vladimir Moya. We did it in Colombia last year in a civics lab. And we had to design a typeface for this little community called Woun-Meu Nation in the Pacific coast of Colombia. So we had one first font to design, and it was like a font for first readers, for kids. And then we expanded it. These are the two versions. We made one for longer texts. It's still under development, so we could have some mistakes here. And we also put some features like for the aspirated consonants. This guy, who's a speaker, is also a teacher and was telling us that it's difficult for him to teach kids why it's not the same. As in Spanish, the letter H it has no sound, like in French. It was difficult for him to tell kids why it has a different sound, why it was ha or ta and not ka or ta, for example. So we decided it could be a good idea to make some ligatures here. And for the long vowels, we also did some ligatures, and we designed diacritics like they do in German, for example, for the A. And there are also some characters that doesn't have a Unicode point, like this U with the bar and the tilde. It has not a Unicode point, so it was hard to do when we designed keyboard layout. I will show it later. So we expanded the program, and now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different styles. We did it in 2 weeks. And we thought we should make also a keyboard layout, because they needed somehow to write their languages. They will have a font now, but how do you put these characters on your text if you're not like an expert user? So we had to make this keyboard layout, but we did it by ourselves and not with the community. That was a mistake. We also designed some didactic, some material for education. And with some OpenType, we did this. You write the words, and it changes into a nice dingbat. So people can practice with the keyboard layout and, well, writing in general. And then this is my last project. I'm working on this. I got some good ideas at the TypeCrit, thanks to Veronica, Jerry, and David. I'm designing this typeface for the National Institute of Indigenous Languages in Mexico. We have a whole institute that is in charge of studying languages and to do some the documentation or all those things. And, well, we have lots of diacritics, of accents. We have basic and special diacritics, and we have also the combining form of each diacritic, so that if you have to write more than one, you can put it here, because we have the same problem in Mexico. There are many languages that have chosen some characters that are not coded in Unicode. I think Masawa people, who use this U with a little diagonal bar, have made a request like 2 years ago, and it was rejected. I don't know why, because we need it. And also, we decided that we had to test it with only one language, and we selected ATypI language, which is one of the ones that have a solid standard, because that's another problem in Mexico. Within the 68 languages, we only have solid writing standards for like 15 languages. So they are still under development. They need to agree which characters are they using for each language, and it takes time. So these are ligatures for ATypI language, also the aspired consonants, the glottalized consonant, and this digraph. Jerry was asking about it at the TypeCrit, so this is the answer. And I think it's not only about glyph coverage. We can have these combining accents, but we have to make them look nicer. So with some OpenType features, well, I just changed them. When you put an A and this diagonal bar, you can have a nicer look at the A, and I did all this stuff. Because, for example, for the U, I was telling you there's not a Unicode point, so it's more difficult to make it. And this, I introduce you the saltillo. It's used for the glottal stop. I put 2 of my typefaces and one by great Victor Goldney here. And sometimes it's confused with other characters. For example, with the vertical line, with the single quotation mark, even with the acute accent, with the apostrophe. But no, we have two special signs, two special characters for that, for the glottal stop. And it's used in almost every language from America. So it's important to design it well. I had some help by Carolina Giovagnoli, who has also designed a typeface for Guarani in Argentina. But, well, people in the community do whatever they like. For example, they put here a little star and a speaker, and a phone speaker in the acute. This is for David. So this is a text, sample text that they sent me for testing the typeface. And we had here lots of different characters, but not a single saltillo. So I thought I should make the typeface, change it without asking. So I put some open type features there, and then we have this, and then it changes automatically. And we have a better look in the text with the right characters. And then we organized a little workshop for designing a keyboard layout at the National Institute of Indigenous Languages with their support. And we had some people from 5 variants of Otomi language, speakers of 5 variants, and they decided how they would like their keyboard to look and to work, and it was so nice. And then now we have this keyboard layout, and it's simpler for them to write their own language. And we're looking if we can distribute it via the website of the institute, or I don't know. And now this is the most recent project, along with some fellows in Mexico, with Sandra Garcia, Daphne Martinez, and Jen Ramirez. Some of you know him. We are trying to make a character list for Mexican indigenous languages and to get all the information that we can from the ones that have solid standards. And some people at the Institute are about to start helping us with this. So we can have a whole list, like a catalog of all the characters that they use, and that we can encourage some other people doing type design to design all these characters to cover most of the languages from Mexico, or the ones that now have a solid standard writing. So, thank you very much. Merci. Gracias. Desculpa.